April 7th in the year 1820. I was born as a slave to the Eldridge family, but I was sold to William Grant as a young woman. William, he was a pretty big slave owner, and he was a strong supporter of the Confederacy during this time. But he was an all-right slave owner as far as slave owners go. He allowed one of his slaves to own a horse, which was illegal, and he got in a lot of trouble for that. But being a slave, it was a lot of work, it was hard, but there were happy times too, like when I met Nathaniel. And Nathaniel, he was a fellow slave. We fell in love and we got married. We had 9 children, and let me tell you, 9 children is a lot of children. That's a lot of work. But we were a happy family, and Nathaniel and William made an agreement in around 1851 that Nathaniel would be freed within about 5 years. And he stayed true to his word, and he did free him. Unfortunately, there was a law passed in in Tennessee, saying that all slaves freed would have to go live in Liberia, in Africa. So this was very unfortunate. We were very worried about this. So basically, they had to go to court and argue that Nathaniel be able to stay here. Unfortunately, the courts decided that he would have to go to Liberia. So he had to leave, and it was a very sad time for me and my family, me and my children. We were very sad about this. And things only got worse because once he arrived, we found out that he died of a fever. So it was a hard time. Around this time, William wrote a will, and in this will, he decided that he was going to split up my family once he died. So I was going to go live with his wife, and some of my children were going to go live with other family members of his. So this was something that I was very upset about because I had lost my husband. I didn't want to lose my children as well. Fortunately, a miracle happened. The Union Army came marching through Cleveland, and they freed all the slaves, and I thought, glory, hallelujah, we've been set free. So the first thing I did was go out and get my own property, and now most white women during this time, mind you, didn't have their own property, so this was a pretty big deal. I worked very hard at making sure that my children were going to be educated and successful, and one of the things that I did is I helped raise money for the black schools, and these were called freedmen schools. Some of the money was given by the federal government to help establish these to educate the newly freed slaves, but some of the money we had to raise on our own. So I helped raise this money, and I made sure my children went to school, got a good education, and they were very successful. This is my daughter, Sarah Louise, and Sarah, she taught in the Cleveland area, and she taught in Chattanooga. She taught many places in the South, and then she went to Michigan where she got a degree in nursing. After that, she came back to the South and got a degree as a doctor. So she lived and worked as a doctor. Then this is my son, John. John became a prominent attorney, and he also taught at a law school. Then there was also Tina. Tina lived into the 1950s, and she lived to the age of 101 years old. She lived to the age of 101, and she was one of the first black teachers in the Chattanooga area. And then there's Elizabeth, buried here next to me. Elizabeth's sons went on to go to Fisk University, and then they went to Tuskegee, where they taught with Booker T. Washington. So my family was very successful. I was very proud of them. Unfortunately, some of my children did die before I did, and there's nothing sadder than losing your own children. But I ended up dying in 1885. I'm sorry, 1885. But I left behind a great legacy with my family. And today, many of my descendants live all over the U.S., from Alabama to California, and they're still very successful. So I'm very proud of my family and our successful transition from slavery to freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.